get the flag.
You got what we wanted.
Flies invading, meeting adjourned.
Pat, don't play with me.
What's place on it?
Doing jizz.
Okay, he's on.
David.
Did you get him?
No.
Oh, you made a lot of
And I
noise.
stuff too flimsy.
Call it to her. There he is.
Next time I'll bring a fly swatter for you.
I make or break number.
And
Yep.
you are
No.
the man of the hour.
We have 4.
Sorry,
We're
guys.
fine. Here. Okay.
I think we got adequate seating.
Okay, let's call to order meeting of the Green Lake Township Planning Commission on 6 p.m. Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 at Golden Fellowship Hall. Rise and pledge allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, Pat McDonald.
Here.
Bundy.
Here.
Sarah Sullivan is no longer a member. Colin Schwarm here. Richard Bark.
Here,
Bradley Dean excused. John Schuster.
Here.
Approval of the agenda. Comments, thoughts, questions? Anybody like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Schuster.
Clint, I'll
Oh.
support.
Okay.
We're all excited.
All right. Support by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Agenda approved. Approval of the minutes from the June 25th meeting.
I had a question, minutes.
Yep.
Number 5, Bark passed language in paragraph 2 under set 2403 be amended, but I'm not sure what the amendment is.
24-003, weren't sure what that amendment was.
All right,
Do you know what that amendment? I didn't bring my June one, so. Do you have any idea, Isaac, what that?
Not without the old
SCP
document.
24-003. From June. Do you remember what we were?
What?
It was, Bark asked that the language in paragraph 2 under SCP 24-003 be amended. Sullivan stated in the same paragraph, breaks need to be amended to breaks.
Yeah, so I believe that was regarding the discussion for the special event, band fireworks,
Okay.
achievers.
There were some extra letters in there. It was like,
Just a spelling change.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
that, there was an extra T and an S or something. So it was just amending out the language.
Did that answer your question, Pat?
yep.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Would you like to move and make a motion on this?
So, I'll move. Acceptance of the minutes as presented.
All right, motion to approve as presented. We have a second. Seconded by John Schuster. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from June. Okay, first public comment. Seeing as how, unless there's anybody out there that would like to comment at this time, we have no public to comment. Moving on. Conflict of interest. Does anybody feel they have a conflict of interest? Okay, moving on from that. Correspondence. Other than the local stuff that provided, we don't have any other particular correspondence. Okay. Moving on from that. Old business. We have no old business currently. So we're moving on from that. Look at us go. New business, we have no new, well, we have discussion, but we have no new business per se. Moving on from that, other business. Okay, number one, PowerPoint presentation. Are we, that can we have them?
I think you're on the.
Are you-
Oh, I'm sorry.
You got the
Oh. Yeah. You picked up the last one. You guys are all like, wow, he's just flying through stuff. Not even talking to anybody. Put credit on that. Okay, let's go back to, I think we can still go through half of that stuff and we're fine.
I thought it was
Okay.
all good until you got to that last thing.
Other business,
There we
review the draft sign ordinance and evaluation of existing signs within the township. So, Isaac, would you like to start with a summary of what you did?
Yes, Isaac Entz, Assessing and Zoning Assistant. So one of the things I've been working on is just a update of the sign ordinance, which was enclosed in the packet. I also did a separate, like, side report that kind of outlined each section, concerns that I have, things I think need to be worked on more. Tried to review some of the existing signs in the township, both field measuring, looking at old permits. So yeah, just the planning commission report is just kind of some thoughts on each specific sign type. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to go through section by section? Or was there like overarching thoughts or concerns?
Well, you wanted to take, what I was gathering is that you're wanting to take what we have existing and you were wanting to modify that. And then you also provided the other option, which was more so mimicking what Acme had going on. So I think probably the first thing that we would want to discuss in that is, you know, how does everybody feel about each way of doing it? You know, is there a preference to?
Yeah, especially now that you have kind of an example in hand, it can definitely, hopefully give you a better idea of just.
You like the layout of the proposed?
Or if you think just eliminating some of the sections of the current ordinance would be more streamlined. I guess my thought is like a overhaul of the existing could, you know, eliminate some of the issues that we've had with the current sign ordinance, but also open for discussion, you know, regarding both ideas. So, yeah, so let's start there.
Does anybody have any thoughts about either or in that regard? What we got?
Well, the Acme thing was pretty easy to follow.
Yeah.
As far as reference, I think the way out, as far as faster way of referencing what you're looking to get.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Fed, on what?
What are the choices?
Well, the choices are the overhaul, which was the, you know, this option, overhauling what we had going on versus the, I don't know how to put it, but the Acme Way, which they have, which is a little more,
Yeah, I mean, this seems good.
Yeah, and one comment I'd like to add, I did have the opportunity to talk to the zoning staff at Acme Township, and some of the problems with signage, et cetera, are very similar to, you know, what we have in Green Lake Township. Some of the things that she did specify that she didn't feel that the zoning ordinance did a good enough job on was residential signs.
prevent what?
Well, that was just as bad.
Is that your roadie?
Much better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be.
I know it's because
temporary
it's
fix.
off, but.
I'll just fix it.
Yeah. I think we're good. You all can hear me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Zoning administrator for Acme Township, and yeah, she kind of gave me a run through with just some of the problems she's having with enforcing their sign ordinance. One thing that she did specify is for the temporary signage, it's hard to follow the time allotment, you know, to follow up on that specifically as in regards to like the specific number of the days. Off-premise advertising is one that they, you know, just like any other unit, have a lot of. And yeah, some of the specific sign types, she did say that, you know, since residential signs isn't defined in the ordinance, there's been a lot of questions and confusion regarding that. But she said overall, it's been really great for business owners, property owners, et cetera, just to reference the sign ordinance and have it kind of be self-explanatory. So yeah, she kind of gave me the pros and cons regarding just administering that ordinance. So yeah.
I like the format myself, but after you did the review on ours and you started cutting ours down, I actually was starting to like ours even more, seeing as how it was. We were losing about half of it.
Yeah, and again,
Which, I mean, I get it, there's a lot in here that I wonder, oh, should we get rid of that? But on the other hand, you know, if you're really gonna overhaul it, then the simpler way of doing it is probably gonna end up being the better way to do this, so.
yeah, and also the Article 6 sign report that has the crossed out, that could kind of give us an idea if, you know, the current format was, have just some of the stuff that would maybe be, you know, left over, so.
Yeah.
What I found with this, I mean, if you get into the zoning book, just from an outside view, then you grab our book and you open it up, none of it really needed to read by me. If you want, it just helps you out a bit, but the bottom line, at the end of the day, somebody's gotta go that you or somebody in that position to take care of it. So it's a good guy, but none of this is good. But I've seen it go, I'm really frustrated, I'm looking at it. And I know most of them.
Is this just copies of Acme's current, or did you take theirs
Yeah,
and
so-
kind of massage it a little bit?
Yeah, I tried to kind of marry them. Again, a good point for me to specify is yellow in the draft is language from Acme, blue is from Green Lake. And stuff without any highlighting is just, there's not much of that, but that was just stuff I added. So yeah, just know that.
That's funny, when I read through the stuff, the yellow, I actually like most all of the yellow, and the stuff in the blue, a lot of that I thought could just go.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, really, and a lot of it seems redundant. So when I kept reading through it, then I kept thinking, well, the simpler way we're gonna do this, you know, maybe it's better if we cut this down and really simplify it, and then as the needs arise, when we have issues, we could always modify it in the future if there's a real problem with anything, but I don't know.
The blue highlight you took out of what we currently have is Article 6, right?
Yep, that's right.
And just
Plugged it in.
plugged it in,
Yeah.
pasted it to the signage types. With the exception, the one area that's stuck in my mind was the wall sign. And I think just because of the way it was treated,
About the 12-inch or the one that sticks out?
no, the one right on the
Oh,
wall,
the painted
the
wall.
the exterior wall, yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought the pictures and the layout, I thought it was very good. I thought it was streamlined. It showed you, it gave you an example.
Yeah, the example's good.
And you didn't have to thumb back and forth between it's applicable in this district and not that, and I think it was very much like the sample we saw, and I'm not saying it doesn't need maybe a little bit of reworking on certain items, but overall, I thought that would be the way to move forward. Or at least, that would be my opinion.
When you pulled this information over, the blue was strictly out of our ordinance as far as meets and
That
measures.
corresponds, not to make it super confusing, but I did provide a copy of Article 6 signs, the current existing, and then I crossed out wherever I took something from that. So what's left is what was not used, so know that.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. When I was reading that, looking at it, I was like, thinking you wanted to cross out, but then I was like, well, we gotta have one of the two of these.
No, that's
or-
just to give you an
okay,
idea of
I gotcha.
what was used.
Okay.
What was pulled. So
That
like
makes more sense.
definitions used or crossed out. Dimensional regulations used or crossed out.
Yeah, I see you cut down on the dimensions
A lot.
a lot, which I think is where we do need to go with that. Dimensions become an issue, I think, really.
Has Acme had any issues? I mean, did.
Yeah, again, just to kind of repeat, I did talk to Lindsay, the zoning administrator for Acme. Said the main issues with signage were like temporary event signs, like small temporary event signs not being picked up in a timely manner based on like the number of days and their provisions. The other one was off-premise advertising, and she did say that she had some questions about like what type of signs can we have for residential signs, but again, those realistically might fall under like the guidelines of a freestanding sign, to simplify things.
Do they find their format pretty user-friendly now?
Yeah, she did say that the format has been great for property owners, business owners, etc. People wanting to do a sign. They've been kind of able to self-guide themselves through the ordinance, she mentioned. Kind of answer their own questions about like dimensional regulations, setbacks, etc. So, yeah, she said overall it's gone really good, except for like a few sign types that I think would really honestly be challenging in any community. You know, like off-premise advertising is an issue for most communities. So, yeah.
So it doesn't sound like any of their issues they have are really related to the format that they're presenting them.
Right, I would say they're just more overarching issues with sign regulations in general, so.
On that Article 6,
Mm-hmm.
in 6.3 of the exemptions section,
Yes.
around to number 9, it looked like you started to put a line through that. Did you include that one? It's the identification signs designating a house number and or name. Did you intend to strike that?
Yes, I don't think I used that language specifically, but there is a section of just, it's under 6.2 of the draft, where they talk about addressing signs. I guess I wasn't sure if like identification signs are the same as addressing signs. But I guess that's the thought.
If it had it in there, that's fine. I was wondering if it had.
Well,
if
I
that-
don't, it's not specifically in there. I just
Okay.
feel like I used some of the language, or, they have similar language in the acting ordinance.
Okay.
And again, I crossed out, the last half of, on the draft of 6.2A1. Yeah, again, I don't know, just trying to strike out some of the stuff that might be cumbersome or overbearing.
Oh, yeah, about the, okay, address signs, I get it. Anybody else have any thoughts about it?
A couple. On the, under general requirements, 6.2.
Yeah.
B and C sort of say the same thing. I was thinking we could, put in B, if you just take the phrases "and sign structures," and then at the end, "and kept in a good state of repair," and pluck those into C, then we could get rid of B.
You mean,
All after like properly maintained and.
just
Yeah.
properly maintained, but
Good
leave
state
out
of
the
repair.
whole,
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Leave
both
out the
say
whole-
all signs shall be properly maintained.
and just leave it as something simple like that?
Well, instead of
Painting.
saying it twice. I mean,
Sure.
keep C, it
Yeah,
covers more ground, but there's
yeah.
a couple phrases in B we could steal and stick into C. And just dump B.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? I like sound
That
like that.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Part of the streamlining of the, whatever we end up with, whatever format, it's gonna be a vast improvement, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything else, Ben?
Well, just on the window signs, are limited to 10% of the window. That struck me as pretty harsh.
Which one was that, and which section?
6.9. Page 108. Well, if you look at the picture there, it says books, you know, that's almost half the window. I was thinking, I mean, at the extreme, I'd say, let them do half of the window, but that's too much. But 10% of the windows just seems like it's pretty darn small.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What do you think it should be?
50, 40%. I mean, I guess, assuming they're not gonna do it in every window.
I'd agree with 50%. I would-
Did you think the 10% was too small?
Yeah, and that's the existing dimensional regulation, so.
So, does this include like store hours? Would that be considered a sign, I guess, right?
That falls under informational sign, right? When store hours fall under information.
Yeah, I think that would be in a separate category.
So the 10%, we came up with that or whatever, but is there maybe a standardized?
Again, that percentage, most ordinances I do see use a percentage, like a window area.
Yeah.
And it can vary, you know, ordinance to ordinance, so.
I didn't know if maybe there was something more of a guideline that most of the townships follow.
I would lean on the liberal side and go at least 30%. Of your window.
If you look at the picture, that's probably about 30% of the window there. Well, I certainly think that's,
I mean, you gotta look at it a couple different ways. You could have a sign that actually puts light through it. You can do the whole dark window, but you still sort of see through it.
How do you calculate the square footage? Is it just the opaqueness that you can't see through as part of it? Or is, you know, if it's some very
Framed.
airy design that takes up the space, you know, you only,
there was an explanation of that somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah, it does say translucent or semi-transparent window sign shall be counted towards the total area limits. And with that being said, I think that number does need to be increased.
I think it's a lot increased if you're including open space pretty much.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think you're splitting hairs in something that's somebody's cheap and easy advertising spot is their window. They're gonna stick their, you know, if you look at this, they're gonna stick their wares in the window. They're gonna, you know, try to get people lured in through their window and.
Exactly the point. So, I mean, if you got all the stuff in your window, what's the difference between having a sign or stuff?
Oh, that's what I mean, so do we worry about whether it says 10% or do we try to come up with, you know, who's gonna actually go measure?
In my head, I can't picture why it would be done for a long period.
I can't either. So I would just say leave it alone and let, you know, not get all bent over it. And try to micromanage a window.
Yeah, with that being said, one of the things that was taken from Acme's ordinance was no permit required for the window signs.
I agree, yeah.
So again, I just thought it seemed like it made sense for some reason, so.
Yeah, no,
No permit, no limit.
well, on the window,
Yeah, I mean, how bad can it be? You can't have anything obscene as it is. How offensive?
Depends on whether it's translucent, I guess.
yeah, we're splitting hairs. As soon as we start talking about it, I would just go with no permit and we don't say anything about the limit, because if you don't say anything,
Yeah.
you're far better off than if you say something. If you say something, you should be enforcing something, so I think we're far better off to just,
Yeah.
I'm with you on
yeah.
that.
People will definitely manage and maintain, they do it all the time, they manage and maintain their window advertising all the time, so.
Yeah, and just because it sounds like you like the format.
I do.
Correct.
I like the format,
As a whole.
yeah.
Yes,
So one thing that would be really helpful for me, is just to kind of go through section by section real quick. So already got some comments on 6.1 and 6.2. I just want to make sure we don't miss anything or have like a solid direction. Again, I can rewatch the YouTube video, from tonight's meeting to kind of get some ideas. So, the one part I didn't add was on flags. Just with the current sign ordinance, flags have kind of been utilized as a workaround, if you will. So I thought Acme's page on having regulations on flags might create a lot of nonconformity. So just try to marry the current sign regulations
and then when it comes to the flag thing, yes, I know what you're saying, people put them out there, but we also, on the other side of that, we're not like Blair, and we don't allow lit signs everywhere and everything in your face, so flags generally tend to look nice and tend to be not so, they seem less like advertising and more like statements.
Until you get one that's the size of the building, and everyone's touching
Well,
the ground. You can put it at half.
So
I suppose,
anyway,
good point there.
trying to keep it simple as far as signs, Acme's ordinance has very specific requirements for signs. I just try to keep it simple and keep with something that would jive with the current regulations for signs. Because there are exemptions from height provisions, that's 4.7, and there's bulk regulations, which flagpoles fall under 4.5, the zoning ordinance.
Right.
So,
those sections are references to our zoning ordinance?
yeah, I try to, come up with something that would jive with the current regulations and not contrast or contradict.
Did you remove some of their stuff and
Yes,
replace it?
I think it was like right after projecting signs, they have like a full page on signs. I didn't do that.
Okay.
But I did that instead to kind of, have a place for it that would make sense.
Right.
So, yeah, that was added by me.
Okay.
To the ordinance, so.
I mean, if I'm good with, if you've got some other specific area myself, I'm good with what you've done. I like it. I guess we have to start somewhere with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
We could probably nitpick it forever, but
Right. Yeah, so moving on, 6.3 sign measurements. Again, I thought Acme's ordinance, sign ordinance, did a really good job of, just reassuring, that they're not content-based regulations, they're all about time, place, manner, size. So I did take our section on setbacks and add that under 6.3. But sign measurements, I wasn't sure if that was like super appropriate, but I thought it could make sense. Put it there. Any thoughts on that?
Seems
Right.
appropriate.
Hmm?
Seems like an appropriate spot for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense. Again, the section I think I had the hardest time on was 6.4. What Acme calls illumination. I think I would like to stick with the subtitle electrical regulations applying to all signs.
Yes. I like that.
So,
With number C, says
The Kelvin,
Not very.
isn't that what?
is it warmer the proper phraseology?
Yes.
Is it- Okay.
I
yeah,
thought,
so looking at that section and then also the current copy of the ordinance, you can see what I, was able to add. But also a little unsure of like the specifics that should be included. So yeah, just any feedback on that?
Well, definitions, I'm fine with that. The only thing, as far as your title, to get rid of illumination, electrical regulation, just for a fast glance at it, if you're looking for lighting or anything, you have to dig in a little bit more.
Yeah, I almost feel like illumination might make you think of lighting standards, when it's really, that's not what they are, they're electrical
Right,
regulations for
electrical,
signs.
maybe electrical slash, I don't know, lighting requirements, something where it just brings you to that section, but obviously this, this thing in the way when it comes to signs, lighting. I guess, they're gonna have to let me take all of that.
So, 64F.
Yes, 64F.
So they're all to be shut off on a timer or something like that, is that
Yeah. Yep. And also, I could have pulled that from either ordinance. They both said the same thing, slightly in a different, way, but they all prohibit the use of, lit signs between the hours of midnight and sunrise unless the premise is open for business. That was a uniform regulation between the two ordinances, so.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that with one, like,
Yeah, I think it's supposed to kind of like enhance the dark sky
Dark
light.
sky
or like
thing,
Dark night sky.
Dark skies.
a great idea? I just didn't know it, so I gotta adjust my timer.
I looked at D and I wondered what internally illuminated signs shall have a dark background and light lettering.
Yeah, that'd be for like a message sign, but again, that's pretty specific, so.
I guess, I just, it seems
I
kind
don't know,
of
anything added or struck.
wasting space, but. It's not bad, I mean, I don't think you're gonna win on that, no matter what you do. I think we're gonna have to,
Right.
I think it's a lot better.
it is better, it's just, yeah. You're never gonna, I don't think you are on that one, not the lighted sign one.
I think it's better than taking the square root and times 100 and.
Yeah.
Right, and with
Yeah.
some of the current language, I really couldn't decipher it, like, with the square root of pi times 32, I did not know what they're talking about. Like, I'm sure there's some,
Yeah, they're all just taking the side and how wide it is.
yeah, I think that would be Kelvin's, right? Or is it also?
Yes.
Well, Kelvin's is the
brightness?
Color.
That's the temperature.
No, Kelvin's the color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lumens is the brightness and Kelvin's the
So you've
color.
got them both covered there.
Yep.
Okay, so you're thinking maybe D could be struck, again, I just tried to stick with some of the current language from the ordinance on that. So yeah, anything else needs to be added, let me know. What you think? Okay, moving on, 6.5, freestanding signs. So, yeah, the definitions was worked on years back, it looks like, for, freestanding signs, so try to carry that forward. Carry forward the dimensional requirements. Any concerns about current dimensional requirements, or like thinking anything needs to be changed with that?
These are the same ones that we
Yeah.
did, but they're also the dimensions that were a problem for fireworks thing, the special event.
Yeah, I think they were trying to utilize other sign types than freestanding signs, but yeah, freestanding signs could include, like it says, pole signs, monument style signs. Again, I tried to give a few examples of where those exist in the township. And again, looking at those dimensions further to kind of ensure that we're not creating unnecessary nonconformity. That's probably the most common type of sign is freestanding signs. So that's definitely a one that we're gonna want to review more and do a good job on.
Oh, can I, on number C up above,
Yeah,
I was thinking the last word is instead of saying possible, how about if we put reasonable in there? And things are gonna come up where someone's not gonna wanna put their sign right dead center in the middle of their,
sure. Again, that was just like an extra provision. I mean,
yeah, sort of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, every lot is gonna have a little different layout anyway, somehow,
Actually, I like that reasonable, that makes sense.
longer premise in the current dimensional.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, wall signs, again, they're kind of rated, under the current regulations, similar as the window signs, not to exceed 10% of the adjacent wall area. Those are also capped out at 40, and 60 square foot depending on the zoning district. I didn't add the portion about projection, just because that could potentially be considered a projecting sign. If like a freestanding sign has too much length to it, the width.
Did you find any bad examples in the township of that? I mean, that you can think of or know of? Or-
Yeah, I mean, I think wall signs might be the second most popularly used signs. Give some examples. I know Good Eyes Optical has one up right now. Seeking Great Motorsports, Long Lake Marina.
Yeah, they're all
No, they're all, I mean, those are all ones that I can think of that were probably fine, but I was thinking,
Yeah.
did you see any that you thought were?
Yeah, I think and again, I think they would probably be considered they were considered artwork. I want to say at one point in time, Sycamore had a wall sign. I don't know if it's still there or not, but I just remember that from conversation. That was non-conforming with the sign regulations. Another one, Tom's. I don't know if you could consider their emblem a wall sign or not, but that's much larger than the standards.
What is, okay, so it's much larger than the standards, but is it more than 10% of the, you know what I mean? Does that fall under two different standards?
Yeah, I mean, and again, that could almost be called a mezzanine or awning sign, because the way it's constructed. So, but yeah, that was one that I was kind of not concerned, but confused on if it would meet the current requirements or so.
I think the addition of it of D is fine myself, but I was just trying to play a little devil's advocate with it because.
Isn't that 10% a little low for a wall sign?
Yeah, and again, look at what it's capped out at, 40 square feet or 60
Yeah.
square feet. So,
Those seem to fit in quite nice.
Yeah, I think-
Go by that.
I think based on the signs that I measured, I guess, other than a few specific signs, it seemed like everything was falling in that range.
If my sign's 10% or so, and it doesn't, I mean, it fits the side of the building.
Yeah.
How many signs did you actually measure, attempt to measure, estimate?
Yeah, so I did measure about a good 20 signs, the list that is on the report, I definitely measured. And then I also did look at permits that we issued the last 3 years, so just to kind of give an idea of that. So I wasn't able to report every sign in the township.
No.
I did get a good sense for the signs on the main drag, the signs in the village. So yeah.
Other than Tom's then, of the signs that you measured, how many, were most of them conforming, non-conforming?
Yeah, it seemed like most of the freestanding and wall signs were conforming, at least dimensionally.
Yeah.
So yeah, those dimensions are reported on page 2.
So, if this was in effect today then, it wouldn't have any bearing on 90% of the...
Yeah, at least the dimensional aspect of it. So,
Okay.
again, I'm reusing the dimensions that are currently existing.
No, I understand that, I just,
Don't rock the boat.
well, yeah, we're in a lot better situation than we thought.
Yeah.
For the most part, maybe I'm wrong,
Right, usually.
Temporary stuff more than anything.
Temporary, the content sections.
When all businesses have been set up, I mean, if we had any complaints on what you have to use it, it's mainly temporary, I thought.
Yeah, temporary signage, and then also some of the stuff, like the exemptions, that seemed to be a bit problematic, because it was, again, very content-based.
For the most part, our sign ordinances work pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
Always gonna be.
Yeah, so, okay, moving on, 6.7, I combine awning and canopy signs just based on the township. We don't have a lot of them. And one thing that I did like, that the Acme example had is they termed it in terms of sign area, or awning area. Because ours was not to exceed 10% of wall area. And I was thinking about how would you measure that? It didn't really make sense, so just tried to go with something that I thought seemed more
The 50%.
logical. Yeah, the 50%. Again, we don't really have too many of those, but they've been previously used at Rick's grocery store, Blue Base Books.
Yeah.
And I think somebody even told me that Bertha Bay, the guy that used to do artwork in the
Yeah.
village, had that
Used
awning
to.
sign at one point in time. So we have a few examples in the township, but it's not widely used.
I like the 50% number.
Cool. Okay, moving on, projecting signs. We did have some regulations for projecting signs in the current ordinance. So, again, trying to match,
So Bowman really, you know, that one that's on the roof, what is that?
What's that?
The sign for Bowman really?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I know it's been there forever, I'm just wondering what.
Yeah,
what
put in a
size.
category, I guess, like you might say wall sign or
The one
projecting
I'm talking
sign.
about, the one that's on the roof.
Yeah, and yeah, got that.
kind of falls under both.
Yeah, just, again, the Tom sign, I kind of had a hard time, like, putting that in a category too. So,
Funny that you say that's the first sign that I thought of when I was looking at it, too, was the mountain one. It obviously exceeds, but it's also something that's been there since the dawn of time in the township, so.
yeah, I think technically if you read the definition on 6.8, it might be considered a projecting sign.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I like obviously you need to have a rate for a book.
yeah, and it's funny because our current ordinance does not permit several different sign types in the residential districts. For some reason, they have that in the residential districts, not to exceed 4 square feet in area. So again, just reuse that.
I would. It hasn't been an issue, so might as well leave it the way it is.
Okay, good. Moving on, 6.9, window signs. Already kind of touched on that. Is there any other discussions?
Anybody?
Can we jump back to 6.8 just for a second?
Yeah, yep.
With being allowed in R1, would that be the home-based business
Yeah, potentially. I mean,
or the B&B?
the new ordinance doesn't specify like the type of signs, because again, that's kind of getting into content, but it could be. Again, we're trying to move to like regulating size, height, location. But yeah, I think it technically could be, Rick.
Okay.
Michigan State, Michigan.
Coat of
Coat of arms.
Yeah.
That's very close.
Okay, and 6.10 is electronic message signs. These are a few examples of those in the township, really stuck to the current regulations. Again, I think we have 2 or 3 of those in the township, so we have some good examples to look at.
I like the way we have our electronic sign ordinance. I mean, all our information, it helps keep it, you know, if somebody wants to have one, then they're gonna come in to apply to get one. So at least it's not, they're not just everywhere.
I think the biggest thing is about, you know,
Yeah.
time on.
That's all, just being able to control the fact that it's not gonna be stellarly bright and annoying and traffic hazard.
There's one in Blair that blinds you at night.
More than one.
There's one really bad.
The reasons why we address that is to keep that away.
Good job.
Even the windows can do that to you.
I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I mean, I'm not trying to say, I just myself personally, like that we kept a cap on that a little bit so that it doesn't become,
Trashy
yeah, well, it's a distraction when you're driving.
distraction.
All right, 6.11, 6.11, small temporary signs. Again, stuck with the dimensional requirements of our ordinance, but we didn't really specify or give any definitions for small temporary signs. Again, I think that this, a section about special events could be worked in here, or just a statement about that. I really see these being this type of signs that you put out, at the start of the day, take it back in at the end of the night. I think several businesses use similar signs here in the village. So again, just trying to stick with the dimensional regulations.
I like the illumination prohibited.
Yeah, that
That was a
was
good idea.
pulled from Acme,
Yeah.
and I thought it was potentially a good idea, but
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
I don't know, it might, be different from quarter.
yeah, it's kind of kind of goes without saying, but still.
Makes it easier.
Okay, and 6.12 is the real, I think this could be a solution to some of the temporary events that our planning commission see. And again, since we didn't really have any regulations regarding large temporary signs, there wasn't a whole lot of information to go off of from the current ordinance. Again, I think I could maybe add some explanation or add something about special events approved by the planning commission in conjunction with large temporary signs. But also, these signs might be utilized during the road widening project. I mean, it'll be interesting to see the impact that has on businesses, but who knows? Some of our businesses might need to utilize temporary signs during the road construction.
Yeah.
It's just a thought of mine.
Yeah, I guess at that time we could address it if we wanted to do a short term, if correct anything. That will tell what we gotta do with the next time.
Yep, if businesses feel that's what they need to help out their business, then we should definitely allow and go in that direction for sure, because it is gonna be painful for everybody.
So large temporary signs, these could potentially be political signs?
Yeah, you're right. There's no distinction on that. Again, we're really looking at size, location, height, type.
You're getting into content then, aren't you?
But
You're
that's a
saying
good
maybe keep
point.
that in mind when you're saying you can have a 24 square foot sign in your yard,
Yeah.
That happened before, on the last 4 years ago. And yeah.
Yeah, again, I think maybe marrying the quantity provision with the size in different districts, that might need some smoothing out. Again, tried to create something to address special event signs generally utilized by, say, for example, the farmer's market, TNT fireworks, band fireworks.
So those all sound, they're commercial uses, but what, you know, residential zones, those are pretty big yard signs.
Yeah,
Stuck
that's
in
what I'm
someone's
saying,
yard.
like, maybe that needs to be looked at further, or like, quantity on
Yeah,
those.
quantity and, or total square footage, or.
Alright. Then if you get into the political statement up there,
Well, regardless if it's political or not, I mean, it could be whatever yard sign you want to stick in.
somebody has their political statement out on a sign, and the sign's a little too large, are you gonna infringe upon their right to say
Have a
what
big
they wanna
sign?
say?
They can just put it on a smaller sign.
I'm just putting it out there, you know.
Yeah, I just brought a political sign, because, you know, you see this size, but here we're saying, okay, you can do
Yeah.
3 by 5, as many as you want, and stick them all over your yard.
Yeah, it does say permit required too, so that would be like another,
But what would be, what?
yeah,
Is that Cassidy on 31?
Caskey with the political signs? I believe so.
I got looking at them today and thinking about how they would fit in
Yeah, that's a group 20.
with these, because he's got, how many? I don't know. One for everybody that's a Republican.
Right. Yeah, so maybe quantity, size, height could be looked at a little more. See if I can find other examples of how that's done. Does that sound good? Just kind of review that a little more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
6.13 should be pretty straightforward. Again, nothing's really changed as far as the content, just the layout. But I thought our definition was great because specifies off-premise directional signs, real estate signs shall not be construed as billboards. So,
Right.
any wrong with that?
Yep.
Okay, prohibited signs, again, I tried to listen as closely as I could to the conversation regarding this. So if I have one on here that wasn't supposed to be included, or there's one missing, let me know. But I think I followed our conversation from last meeting pretty well.
I thought it was fine. I thought you curved it down so it took out the content.
Yeah, it's not 30 anymore, it's
Yeah.
like half that. Non-conforming signs, again, use the same language as we currently have. Same with 6.16 permits. And, yeah, let's do it. Just to round that out, like the last few sections are just kind of reused, so.
Mhm.
Any concerns on those specifically, or?
Anybody? Any thoughts? I like it.
Okay, yeah, that kind of gives me an idea of just some things to work on, and do more research on.
A good portion of this is really, what we currently have is the existing
Yeah, just kind of cutting down. the
requirements.
stuff
We're
that-
just kind of focusing, making it a little easier to understand.
Yeah, kind of cutting out the content-specific stuff. I guess that was my main goal, was trying to make it more like dimensional and size, height, type related, so. All right. Any other thoughts?
I don't know how anyone else feels, but I like the 6614, the Acme.
Which one?
The flag stuff.
The flag page?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who wants size and stuff, but I think it's nice to be addressed. It's not an issue now. Easy to see that.
Yeah, I guess my thought with, like, working with the sign ordinance so much, that just in the past, it's kind of, flags were used as a workaround almost for like the sign regulations, so if we put like strict regulations or like requirements on them, there might be a lot of non-conforming flags or signs. So,
Well, I was just looking at these, I can't think of only but one that wouldn't conform. I think that's a pretty good ratio.
yeah, again, there's specific exemptions for flags in the current ordinance too, so flags and flagpoles, so try to be consistent with that, but that's something that you would like to see, you can definitely put that together.
That's just my thought.
Pat, do you have any thoughts on the flag thing?
Not at the moment, I guess I'd have to look at Acme's, what they got going with the flags.
Do you have any thoughts on the flag thing?
Not on that.
John? If everybody's all, I'd say work on that one a little bit, then it's worth looking into it. You know, there's some interest. I can go either way on it. I almost, the way I look at it is, let sleeping dogs lie in that department, because we don't really have a huge issue about it, but since we start talking about it, then
Right.
I don't want to make it non-conforming for somebody, otherwise it's just, you know. But let's look at what Acme's is and see if there's a limit that we can put within reason, I guess.
I'm trying to think, how would we handle, I don't know, another Tom's if, you know, we should be so lucky that somebody wanted to buy the corner and put something in there and their corporate signage exceeds our,
Yeah, I mean, there's always, since these are part of the zoning ordinance, there's always the opportunity for a dimensional variance too.
That's what, and I'm gonna say, Tom's went in, that was a special use, there, everything design-wise was
Right.
laid out, put in front of the board at the time when they applied for that permit, so I think it was approved.
No, it mainly worked out through the board before we.
I think so, so I'm pretty sure that was done. I don't think they are exceeding the limit, I think they're meeting with what they got when they got their special use for that whole setup, so I don't think it's not something they came in after the fact and
no,
pulled up.
no, I just, generally speaking, it's always nice to have an out for a special
Yeah.
exception.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, there's,
You know, like a roll call if you're gonna waive the requirements of whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, in that case too, if somebody comes in for that situation, they're gonna be applying for a special use. So then, you know, at that time, it's something if they want a variance from what what we have, then we can, at least you can control that a little bit at that point too.
And that's the other thing that I guess I don't know the answer to, but once you do a special use or a variance from ZBA, that runs with that parcel in perpetuity, I understand. Is that correct, Pat?
Yeah, I would think so.
So you make the exception for this guy or that parcel, and then something happens and,
That's why we try to keep it, set the standard, whatever everybody's playing by the same rules.
I don't know, I just,
That's the game.
devil's advocate, I guess.
Yeah, well, I understand, but it's sort of hard to take and picture every corner, every scenario.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand, that's,
We try.
I think we've made a pretty good start.
Yeah,
I think it,
Well, you've done a fantastic job of
yeah, I.
pulling this together in a
I'll second that.
combination. You really have. I mean, I liked a lot of it, and I think,
It's a positive forward, how's that?
yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with, some of the more specific aspects, more research. So yeah, that's all I had to say about that.
But not a lot, I would say. I mean, you're not far off with this.
Well, could you, is there a lighter blue that you could use?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I will definitely.
My printer came out really nice. I was looking at yours, I'm like, I might be able to read it. Like, you can't read mine.
yeah, I had,
It's tough.
Yep. So, yeah, I'll definitely be more cognizant of the shading.
It reads well on my phone.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's what I
I
thought.
was just
too.
doing this, is what I was doing.
Looking at a computer screen, so.
Yeah. Oh, it's fine. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts? Do you have anything else that, you have any questions on, Isaac, for us on that?
No, I think I have good guidance. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions from the board? Thoughts, comments?
I think it's a lot of progress, pretty darn quick.
Okay, so you're gonna just revamp those things and then do another presentation, but you can probably eliminate pretty much the highlight anyway, and
Yeah, I
And
was
come
thinking
up
about
with a-
getting rid of that.
yeah, just come up with a version, and then, for the most part, from what we discussed, I think the version will be probably pretty close to acceptable for everybody on the board, so. I think if we present, or you pull it all together in one presentation with the fine tuning stuff, and we take a look at it at our next meeting, then if everybody's agreeable, then we can call for a public hearing.
is there anything in what was proposed as Article 6, which is all of the verbiage with strikeouts, are there any elements in there that you feel we would want to, like, add to an
Yeah, and
appendix?
again, that was kind of my thought for you guys, if you guys could let me know. Just again, I try to only or not include anything content regulated or content specific, which I think a lot of that looks like it's what's remaining, like home occupation sign, identification sign. So yeah, I think there is some stuff that could be added about potentially special event or, temporary signage. So just, yeah, there are some stuff that.
Yeah.
Included, but, yeah. A lot of this stuff is the content specific regulations, so.
The ones that I noted were primarily what you've already said, temporary signs, the special use,
Special event.
special event, that sort of thing. But that, I think this is certainly easy for anyone to understand.
Hey, good, yeah, I can continue to work on that.
Everybody good? Yep. Okay. Let's move on to discussion related to front yard setback requirements. Just a little heads up on why that discussion came forth for everybody is, it primarily relates to State Park Highway, the small tracks that are over there, and Diamond Park Road, where there's a lot of, non-conforming lots in the smaller sections where it's plotted badly for, meeting any requirements we have of setback. So those people are constantly having to come in and go in front of the zoning board of appeals to try to get, variances on their setback requirements so they can have a room big enough to sit in, or, there's some very small lots.
What you're talking about are perfect for tiny houses.
Which would be great, but we're also talking about a lot of houses that already exist, so.
I know, there's a lot of them.
I guess my thought is there a way to take a zoning district, and is it legal to do a sub-district?
Yeah, I
Apply
guess,
different rules to just the plotted areas.
To relax the setback requirements in certain areas in the township where we know it's just, every house in there is already non-conforming. So why are we trying to make this more difficult for people? So I'm just thinking, is there a way for us to create a sub-district? Is that legal even?
yeah, my thought was just, again, to maybe make like a footnote on the table of dimensional requirements. Something specific to like properties that have two front yards because they're adjacent to, say for example, like an abandoned and vacated right of way that's platted, so it's still there on the plat, on the map. But maybe that they could use like a side yard setback for that. Just, again, we had the perfect scenario of this at our ZBA meeting earlier this month, where he was situated between an improved road and one, like, if you will call it a paper road, and needed a variance, but he could have, done this project with a side yard setback and not needing a variance. I think Green Lake Township has on the upper range of 80 plats. If you include the site condominiums, we have over 90. A lot of them were created in the early 1900s, 1920s. So, dimensions were a lot smaller back then. A lot of these roads were never developed. Again, not to, create a whole conversation out of this, but I think it could definitely reduce the number of variance requests. Just today, I was talking to a realtor. There's a trailer up in the village on the corner of Second and Fashion. But if you really look at the map, it's bounded on both sides by abandoned road right-of-ways. It's going to be kind of challenging for whoever buys that property to do anything with the parcel under the current regulations for front yard setbacks. So just kind of thought of mine. Any other thoughts on that?
Now, what are you referring to, the one we just had before the ZBA?
No, this is one that's currently for sale. It's in the village. It's a trailer with I think it's a pretty substantial garage, like a 24 by 32 or something like that. Right at the corner of Second and Fashion. And you would never know it. If you look at the map, it's bound on two sides by abandoned right-of-ways.
I would, yeah, I mean, that's one of the zoning regulations I've never liked, is that if you're on two roads, you're gonna have to have two front yard setbacks. It's not fair to people. It causes problems for people all the time,
I don't
so.
see the benefit of it. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Whichever road your driveway's on, that should be your front yard setback, and you should be allowed a side yard.
And that's what it's based upon, I guess, that fact, it doesn't, exactly.
then a side yard setback should apply on the other side, is the way I feel about it, and it would allow people to,
Be like a special thing anyway, there's not a lot of people. I agree, I mean, if you have zero,
Yeah, but,
you have
again,
one category.
so,
How many sub-districts would you envision?
well,
I
so
mean, the one over on Diamond Park is
the
a,
question is a sub-district the proper way to go about modifying something, you know, for certain areas? So that's an attorney question. And then, if it is, then would we have to describe those platted areas, meets and bounds, or, you know, section descriptions, or how would we do that? That's the second thing. Third thing would be, do we do it only in the, you know, the certain districts? Are they gonna apply to, you know, just residential, or are we gonna go with the, you know, the lakefront, lake residential, or how, you know? So there's just those questions of it. I think that before we can even do anything, we need to know what we can do.
If you're focusing on, part of it is obviously you're talking about the dual road situation, and it'd probably be pretty easy to work it out where whatever road is, you're doing the driveway on, your setback, the other, one setback per drive,
For property.
per property,
Per
on
home,
per
or-
road frontage, I guess.
Yeah.
And not worry about the other, but then you still gotta deal, I mean, obviously the road, these plots are small.
That's the other side of it too.
You know, area that's classified like that, and then being asked to do it. But yeah, like we had one before us, that we had some two roads, and one road, he had to come, he wanted to come before us for the setback for the backside, which he didn't have to, he had one setback per road, but he still had other stuff. They might have done something, but I see what you're saying.
It's just it's a way to help people, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people, you know, they're gonna
It
go,
doesn't make a lot of sense to have.
they're gonna get their variance because they're already on a non-conforming situation. So all we're doing is making them pay to come in and say, yeah, what you're doing's okay, or, you know, I mean, that's just,
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't write something like that, or maybe I'm wrong, just have one setback for whatever road your driveway's on, your setbacks, and the rest, yeah. It should be something simple to write.
Well, you gotta be careful though, these, say the village, I mean, if you're gonna go allow them a side yard setback, and they live on a corner, I mean, you could end up with a house sitting pretty darn close to the, you know, all the other houses on the street are set back like they're supposed to, and then the one in the corner is gonna be,
Right, I'm not saying about those setbacks, I'm just saying about the setback from the road as farther than the side setbacks. So,
Well-
you know, we just had.
that's the question,
Two roads,
that's,
so you had 30 feet both sides.
and I know what you're saying, Pat, too, but the one thing that will probably help is there's a road right-of-way, and then the setback apply, you know, after the right-of-way line, so at least, you know, somebody's not gonna be like, oh, right there.
yeah, I forgot about that.
But we would have to,
Encroaching on, yeah, I'm not looking at that. Make it different.
Well, we could say, as far as the undeveloped roads, we could just say, undeveloped roads are not front yards.
not subject to.
yeah, and that was kind of my thought, again, I wanted to keep this simple, and some of these, like paper roads, if you'll call them that, I feel like they exist in all districts, but it's mostly limited to R1, village residential, VR district, and lake residential. Just, again, that's where those plats exist, and it's just something that you see uniformly in those old plats. I don't know why they put roads everywhere, but it just was the style back then. So they're really more alleyways.
There's a road behind my shop that's supposed to come on from Melody.
Sure.
And obviously that's never gonna become a road.
But,
But
yeah.
they're on
Mhm.
our house, so, yeah.
So,
Why they did it.
That sounds like a really easy workaround.
If you think that that's you know, yeah, if you guys don't think that's a way to, you know, move forward around this thing, I think it's probably.
Yeah, and I wasn't necessarily, I should have specified more in the report. I wasn't necessarily thinking about corner lots. I was thinking about properties that are adjacent to, you know, undeveloped roads or abandoned road right of ways. Just because they're still there. They still
In a way, it's
exist.
the same thing. I mean, really, it's,
So,
they're having the same problem,
right.
yeah.
But yeah, that was just to kind of get the idea that the planning commission's had. I definitely agree with John. I think I should maybe research it more and see what other communities have in their zoning, to see if there's any like specific situations or examples that I
I'm
could.
sure we can come up with something that makes. I can see the situation if there's one that.
Yeah.
Gotta be your way to that.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, if you could work on that, that would be awesome. I think that's a good start in that direction, so.
Cool.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions on that particular item? Thoughts?
Good idea.
Okay. Thank you. Well, liaison report from zoning board of appeals.
So we had two residents that had some issues with their zoning, and they both approved this for, what they requested. So they didn't apply, number one, was he basically just turned his house into a rectangular house versus having it notched out in areas would be the easiest way to explain, why we're asking for what we're asking for. The other one was, a lot, obviously, one of these plotted lot. Not much to work with, so this is what we granted.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Liaison report from the board of trustees.
There wasn't a lot going on. We divided a lot up on 3rd Street in the village. I think it's across, if you know where the A-frame house is, and I think it's east from there. It's a kind of a long wooded section there that's plenty big for two residences. Somehow, I mean, normally all those lots are teeny tiny little lots, but somehow this one got mushed together. But we approved it for two residents.
How big of a lot was it? There's no sidewalk, acre?
No, but once you cut it in two, it was big enough for all the setbacks that we have. And then we're buying some flooring for in here and some of the other buildings. We're getting a new rooftop HVAC unit over at the old township hall. And we appointed Jason Hamilton to enforce dangerous building ordinance.
Needs everybody to know
Yeah,
that's
who's here tonight?
that guy right over there.
And we pointed him at I pointed him at the house next to Okies that's been sitting there with no windows and all kinds of other stuff going on.
Whatever happened, you know, I mean,
They just, they pay their taxes and it had a fire. The people moved out and then they had a fire. There was a homeless person living in there and they were making a fire inside the house, I think, and that got away from it. But I don't think it did too much damage to it, and nobody's been living in there ever since that. So, I think 8, 9 years, 7, 8 years, something like that. Been a while. Yeah. Really?
but how long?
Wow.
Time flies.
Yeah. Anything else, Pat?
Nope.
Thank you. Second public comment. We have no public. We'll move on to discussion. Anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss?
Did you mention the correspondence we got again?
The what?
What is that?
A local government law bulletin?
Yeah, I don't have anything bad, I just didn't know if it was mentioned.
Oh, as far as
It's on the agenda.
Correspondence.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you mentioned it.
Yeah, it was covered.
Okay. Sorry, I missed it.
No, no,
We didn't really talk about it.
yeah. I didn't, if anybody had any questions about anything, they'd received, but,
There for your reading pleasure.
Thank you.
yeah. Like you don't get enough to read. Anybody else have any other discussions? Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would move, we adjourn.
Motion by Bart to adjourn,
Second.
second by Pat. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 7:28.
Another stellar work session.
My mic was off.